morning. April 25th, 2020. I would just like to do a Shabbat sharing, teaching, and I have some things to impart and say. So I hope if you get to hear this, it'll bless you. It's my heart and intention to do that. So today's Parsha is can be found. You can just Google Parsha 2020 to today's date, and Parsha is the readings that are done every day and actually cyclically every Sunday throughout. The Christians follow what's called a lexicon, but the Jews have what's called a Parsha, which are Torah readings that will get you through the Bible in a year. So today's Parsha is usually a jumping off point for most sermons and most teachings that'll go on today. And while I'm not going to teach specifically about today's Parsha, I do want to say that it's a lot of, if you look at it, it's a lot of really deep stuff. It has to do with, big topics like clean and unclean, and a woman after she gives birth, and all this ritual that needs to be gone through for purification. But while there's some very deep mysteries, and I'm not going to go into that, what I want to say, one of the reasons people don't understand a lot of what's going on in Leviticus and these things is because the priests, all right, I don't think and I really am talking mostly to my Christian Ephraimite friends. The priests are of the Old Testament. These are not normal. Well, I won't say not normal people. Yes, they're human. They're Adamic. But the point is, these people, they're physicians. Okay? So a lot of what's going on in this clean and unclean, these are like almost physicians looking at your body, trying to determine what is causing your disease or your surface sickness. Okay? These people are scientists. All right? These people are linguists. These people are Torah sages. All right? There's nothing, these are some of the most brilliant minds the world has ever produced. Like Isaiah was a priest, some of these people. I mean, we need to appreciate more the knowledge and understanding that they had. And obviously, language has changed over the millenniums, and sometimes the words used, we don't know what they're talking about. But trust me, this is what we need to come back to and understand. Our ancients knew exactly what they were talking about. And we have to come back to understanding it on their turf, so to speak. So it's important, especially these sages, they understand the mysteries. What that means is they understand what Paul even refers to as the hidden parts of Torah. So I want to kind of talk about this in the context of, now let me just stop there and say, now I have a YouTube channel, I have a website, I'm trying to kind of increase my platform, so to speak, to teach and get out there. But I did a teaching called Yod He Vav He, which people would understand is the tetragrammaton, the name of the most comprehensive Old Testament name we have of God, Yahweh. Okay, and there is a lot of information in that. And my premise, after years of deep study, and I'm going to read a quote from the Dead Sea Scrolls to make my point, to jump off from these, the names of Elohim in the Hebrew, and actually they boiled out to 10 attributes, 10 names, 10, even the word Sephrith, and the 22 letters. All right. In that, I give a big overview. So if you can watch that, I really highly suggest that. Because it really, in its total simplicity, now simplicity, when I'm using it in biblically, doesn't mean it's like simple, like stupid, okay? It means it is so sublime. It is so ethereal, this is what they're saying, that it's in everything, all right? So the word is so totality, and are in everything. That's why they say the Hebrew letters are the letters of creation. They actually dance, combine, form, and all the way down from a thought, from being in Elohim's mind as a thought, all the way down to a blade of grass in physicality. That's what our sages tell us. So, but we are, and I want to say again, because of my audience, I'm really trying to reach out in a much more public way than having to, find my very kind of obscure YouTube channel. Ephraim, I'm Christian, aka you are not Christian, you are the house of Israel. You're Ephraim, you're the house of Ephraim, you're the house of Joseph, you're Samaria, you're the northern kingdom, you're the multiplied seed, the fullness of the Gentiles that Paul was referring to. Now, just to put that out there, I don't have time. I've unpacked each of those nuances in many of my other videos and some of my other live streams. But suffice it to say that this is what John, in the Gospel of John, is kind of saying. He's saying, in the beginning was the Word was God, the Word was with God, the Word was God, is God, and nothing was made except through this Word. And these are two, because it's written in a Greek translation, or we have a Greek translation. And of course, I absolutely believe it was written originally in Hebrew, and we'll go back to the Hebrew letters and words. But logos and theos, it's the same. The logos, the word, the theos, the concept of God, he's the same. And it's the principle. My body, obviously you see my body, that's the kind of look at the word. And then I have a soul, I have a spirit, I have other parts of my persona. So, which you can't see. So those are the hidden parts of me. All right. You can get a glimpse of what's going on in my mind. Obviously, like if you listen to me for the next half hour, you'll get a glimpse of what's going on in my mind. But the Bible is very clear that we are a threefold being. We were made in the image and the likeness of Elohim, it says in Genesis. And the nature of us is we're a threefold being. We're made up of a body, a soul, and a spirit. All over the text. And the thing that's neat, that we've kind of lost in this, because in the translations they're always translating spirit, soul, and soul, spirit, and people don't really understand. There's very defined differences, because in Hebrew you have 3 words for these different levels, body, soul, and spirit. In Hebrew you would call it your nephesh, your ruach, and your neshama. But the point is, there are 3 very different combined letter words with very specific applications. And if you don't know that, the problem with us Ephraimites is we were not taught originally our faith at this point Hebraically. All right? We've really got most of our understanding, the way we perceive things comes from, this can be all that, a Greek mindset. Now, I ask you, was Yeshua a Greek? No. I mean, Greeks are great. But when it comes to a transmission of truth, the vine is Hebrew. And that vine, the branch in that vine was Yeshua. And he originally, all the original apostles and disciples and everybody at the time circling around this were Jews and were the house of Israel, the house of Ephraim. And people knew, they understood what these words meant and who the people groups were. Yeshua, in my opinion, totally in a scene. That's why I'm going to read out of the Dead Sea Scrolls here. Because it's not an accident that at the end of the age, here we are, 6,000 years, the Dead Sea would come up out of the earth. It's almost prophetic in itself. The earth would spew out. And this is the group, the denominational group per se, that you could say that Yeshua, John the Baptist, Mary, all of these, Zechariah, the mother of John the Baptist, and I can't think of their names right now, come from, right? And it's a very important demographic. They've been talked about in history by, Josephus and Philo, and there are some other records, Pliny mentions them. But for some reason, it's fascinating. If you like a good detective story, they kind of fell off the radar. But that's not tonight. So there is a fragment that was found in the book of, it was Julie entitled The Book of Mysteries. And it is just a fragment, but it's enough to give us a glimpse into the mindset. And you tell me if this is not absolutely biblical. Okay? It says, the mysteries of sin. All right? They know not the mystery to come, nor do they understand the things of the past. They know not what shall befall them, nor do they save their soul from the mystery to come. Now, context, we can know that they do not know what shall befall them. Obviously, this would be people who walk in darkness, because the wicked, the sons of darkness. That's the whole point. They're blind. They don't really know what life is all about, and that their soul is totally at stake. And this shall be a sign for you that these things shall come to pass. It says, when the breed of iniquity is shut up, wickedness shall be banished by righteousness, as darkness is banished by the light. As smoke clears and is no more, so shall wickedness perish forever, and righteousness be revealed like a sun governing the world. Now, that's exactly what our New Testament, Old Testament testify. And that all who cleave to the mysteries of sin shall be no more. Knowledge shall fill the world, and folly shall no longer exist. So you have a contrast here, but it's all in the context also of mysteries. And it's important for people to understand, especially Ephraimites, that the texts are written on many levels of understanding. There is milk for babies, Paul says, but there's meat for adults, for mature-minded people who have really, studied toward, they're past the meat. You really have it. You have babies, you have youths, you have, and you have old men. This is another way they kind of graph these levels of understanding. The mature are those who have, quite frankly, the mature are people who have harnessed their nephesh soul, their physical carnality. They're in control, all right? They have cleaned out their soul life, all right? They don't have a lot of, they've gotten involved are repetitive besetting sins. And they have, in their mind, they have achieved a level of truth to the level of mystery, all right? It's not like that it's being kept from anyone. Anybody can get to the level of understanding mystery. Just read the text and do the homework. The Holy Spirit will graduate you. It's really not rocket science. But let me get to my point here. So it says, the word shall truly come to pass. This prophecy is true. And by this may it be known to you that it should not be taken back. And that's the message today. The gospel of the kingdom has gone into the whole world. Now what we're waiting, now the king is coming. See, the part of the thing is the message is changing up a little bit. And people's consciousness is becoming where the king is coming. We really have entered a season. And you need to be a bride, one of the bridesmaids who is getting oil. Retaining oil in your lamp is another way of saying getting this level of meat and understanding. All right, so that you can understand as things spin out of control and into chaos, which is prophesied it will be, you have a sure foundation, a strong tower, your mind, your body, so you can go through this tribulation, even this great tribulation. And that is my message to the elect. We can do this. And many people will do it very successfully and shine very brightly and be powerfully used by Yahweh with demonstrations of the Spirit's power. So, but this is what I want to read. This is the whole point. It says here, do not all the peoples loathe iniquity, and yet it is spread by them all? Does not the fame of truth issue from the mouth of all the nations? Yet is there a lip or tongue which holds to it? Which nation likes to be oppressed by another stronger than itself? Or likes its wealth to be wickedly seized? And yet which nation has not oppressed another? And where is there a people who has not seized another's wealth? I mean, that's kind of the whole story of history, of the nations with each other. Seriously, okay? We need to, in the end, we are going to put down our weapons. This is the whole point. Yeshua or the Mashiach will teach us, no longer to war. No longer will there be bloodshed and violence and oppression. These things will go away. This level of wickedness will perish forever, and righteousness will be established. Well, you got to ask, well, how's that going to happen? Well, in a multiplicity of ways, but one of them is by especially the people of Elohim, the elect, to elevate our understanding into the deep level of these mysteries, so that we can articulate to people in a very profound, reach people deep in their soul with a profoundness that because when you're starving, you need meat, you need something to eat. All right. And there is a famine of the word. So many people are looking for something deeper, something to, you can really sink your teeth into. All right. So to bring this back, this is in the nations, in the world today, like I believe many people do, we've entered into the final phase of the birth pangs. We are in a season of judgments. It's just the COVID is just one of the first. We're going to go around this cycle a couple of times. I don't know how many birth pangs are going to be until the baby's born, so to speak, but we're there. And each successive birth pain gets stronger and they get closer together. So on a personal note, yeah, I think we will get out for a season this summer, or soon, hopefully June, summer. By middle of May, people start to, but I want to caution people because Yahweh is dealing with the nations. So Christian, or I should say Ephraim, or anyone from the, don't relax your guard. It's going to whip back around us. Yahweh is going to thresh the nations. It's time, because we're at the point where only through judgments do the peoples learn righteousness. And Yahweh is finally going to shake the nations from much of their bloodshed, their violence, the things that they do that are just totally contrary to the word. The most fundamental principle in all of the universe, so to speak, that Yahweh, is that you reap what you sow. And, because it's just amazing to me how deep this is, and how much people, oh my gosh, we just don't believe it, and then we're always shocked. Well, why is this bad thing happening to me? Or why does, my life turn out like this? So in Matthew 7:21, the Master Yeshua said, our teacher, he said, in everything that people, he summed up the whole law and the prophets, which is by saying, in everything, treat people the same way you want them to treat you. For this is the law and the prophets. All right. It's a very easy system to figure out, that even a child can figure it out. But this is one of the important things I have to say for Ephraim at this time. Christianity, the Ruach HaKodesh is calling people like back into the house, part of gathering the wheat. All right, the tares are getting ready for judgment, but the Father's also gathering the wheat. The wheat is people who are on Yahweh's page from the house of Judah, the house of Ephraim, and from righteous, what we call them righteous Gentiles from the nations. So the Father has everybody's going to be affected by this season we're going into, and its purpose is to bring people out, bring Israel out from the nations, out from Babylon, out from all the false kind of contrary to Torah ways, and into a collective whole. And the tares, those who just don't want to, I just told you, I didn't make it up. That's what there will be a retribution upon evil. And there needs to be. How are we going to go into a peaceable kingdom and this level, whether you're dealing on the level of nations, or you're dealing in a household, or your own individual nature. So this concept of the triune being, body, soul, and spirit, which I told you has 3 levels of minimum of 3 levels, and it's in this concept of these pards, which is a Hebraic way of exegesis very, very clearly 4 large categories of interpretation. I have another couple of playlist videos on that. And just look up PARDS, P-A-R-D-E-S, and get to a Hebraic, get to a good Jewish website, and we'll get a lot of information on that. But the Bible talks a lot about seed. It uses a lot of agricultural terms, and because we're in spring, this idea of seed, we were created by seed, right? We were created of the seed of our parents, 23 chromosomes from our dad, 23 from our mom, whatever, and then we become this collection of 48 chromosomes. But, the problem with the modern secular mindset is they only want to deal with, talk about, acknowledge in the realm of the physical. This is the elephant in the room. They don't want to deal with the soul and the spirit. Well, I'm sorry, but you're very late to the table, because centuries, thousands of years of the greatest minds in the world all acknowledged that soul and spirit are as real as any physical item. So this is something we need to come back to. But where do we find this in the text? This is the thing. That we have to get back to these 22 letters, these Hebrew letters that combine to make Hebrew words, that combine to make what is really called a house, a container, a theological construct, so you can understand it. So when I said, your nephesh is your body, your flesh, your carnal. Your soul, your ruach, is your psychological processes in your mind. Okay, this is something that, Freud, who was a Jew, and all these people, it's like, you don't understand it. It's been repackaged to you. Biblical truth has been repackaged, called, a lot of ways psychology, a lot of that deal with our emotional levels, which includes our desires, our appetites, our emotions, our memories, all these different levels. And then you have what's called your neshama, soul, which is your spirit, the highest level of consciousness that actually there's where you can touch God, so to speak. All right. This is where there really is and can be a total connection between our neshama, our mind. See, we can have the mind of Christ, which means we can have the high level of anointed understanding that Yeshua or any of the great sages or prophets had. It is available. So inside of us is the seed. We're starting with a seed, but that seed is, all right, and this is how the text relay this information to us, all right? But it is our spiritual, our emotional, and our physical DNA. See, our DNA does not contain just our, the color of our eyes, or, what color of our skin, or male or female. It contains our emotional, what would be kind of our soul, our psychological levels, and it contains our spiritual level. And it's coded into it. Now, the way we can know this, because the Bible tells us, when it talks about the tree of life, which is the first archetype that we get out of of the tree of life, all right? And that technically is what I teach. I'm teaching the tree of life, all right? Very biblical. But as a tree, you plant a seed, right? Now, the whole tree, in 10 minutes, the whole thing doesn't spring up. First of all, it's a process. But what gets revealed from it begins with its roots. Then it morphs into, the code has in it everything needed to make the root system, to make the trunk, to make the branches, the leaves, and eventually the fruit. That's all in that little nut. That's how we have to think of ourselves. And the Bible is very clear. It does talk about all of these different levels. Okay, so one of the main things is when we're told to be holy, even as holy, those words are really referring to a lot to our psychological levels. And like to be clean is our physical level. And to be like him would be to be spiritually made in his image. And you will eventually have the fruit of the Spirit that's been growing in you will come out into your life and people will see it. It's another thing that I've just sort of been saying, especially to people who know me, if anything I say makes you nervous, well, you can look at my fruit. All right, if you know, in Dennis, I do where we people, I think that we have a track record. All right, this is a good indicator that we are in the vine, the correct vine, so to speak, because our deeds are not evil. Now, Micah, this principle, once we understand that we have these built-in levels to our persona, and we sin in all of them. You can sin against the truth, you can sin in your body, or you can sin in your soul life. And just to give you a good example, one of the key words in one of the things about this text from the Dead Sea Scrolls is this concept that Yeshua said, for out of the heart come the issues of life. When we have a desire in our soul life, it can be either for good or for evil. I mean, you can have a desire for revenge. You can have a desire for more covetousness. Like it is here, it talks about the nations. I mean, they're constantly trying to steal resources from each other. Constantly, actually, if you really understand the big picture, Yahweh blessed all the 70 nations with plenty of specialties that they could trade with each other. I mean, nobody does not get something. It's a completely very balanced. If it stayed in its original streams and archetypes, everybody would have shared all their resources. We would have had a plenteous planet, and everybody would have enjoyed all of the plenitude that was located all throughout the earth. Well, that's not the way history has, because we do have what's called an evil inclination. We do have a yetzer hara, a left side, just touching those in the big picture. But this desire, or we could have the desire to feed, clothe, and house people. We could have the desire to bring health to people. We could have the desire to maintain people's freedoms in the world. So your desire will determine pretty much what kind of fruit is going on. You can have a desire for just folly. Go play Candy Crush for 10 hours a day. I mean, whatever. See where that gets you. In this season, people, should be redeeming the time. This is very important. This is a gift, actually, in hindsight, that if people would take advantage of digging deep into the word and into spirituality and into some of the meat of the word, it will go a long way. But this idea, okay, so that we have desire, and your desire has to be for good or for evil, and it will come out. But even that's a three, body, soul, and spirit. That's a triune. But the texts give us so many triune, three examples of how this system works in our body, our soul, and our spirit, our nephesh, our ruach, and our neshama. And we are told, once you believe in Yeshua, you don't just leave it there. This is important for Christianity to understand as they come back into the biblical concept of Torah, of instruction. All right? There is righteous instruction on how to live correctly before Yahweh in the text. That's the whole point. All right? These texts tell us in no uncertain terms. And this is why Yahweh can say to all the nations that will be without excuse, because through the history of mankind and in the writings, the 10 Commandments have been known and expounded. All right, and technically, the Israel at Mount Sinai did not invent the 10 Commandments. Yes, Yahweh gave them to them, but he was reestablishing a covenant. He had originally made the same covenant with Noah and his descendants. Now, it's called the Noahide laws. How to live justly with your neighbor has not been hidden at all, and it's built in. And even if you don't have a text and you lost your Bible or your cut, it's in your. It's wired into your DNA so that you will have a conscience, so that if you start crossing the line and doing something that you sure wouldn't want done to yourself, all right, all these mechanisms start to go into play. But this system, all right, is delineated with words like in the text, if you read it carefully, there's a left side, there's a right side, and there's a middle pillar. It talks about this. Science today, I'll tell you what, it's so interesting, because the reason I love the Jewish mind, there's nothing that they have not thought of. There's nothing in all that they haven't taken to the light of Torah and scrutinized at the level of the letters and the words in Torah to extract the greatest amount of light, of life that you can find in there. But even this left, right, middle pillar that is absolutely foundational in understanding the structure of the tree of life is even, they're learning today, is even the archetype of quantum, the quantum world, of where you have electrons, protons, and neutrons all acting on an atom. Now, that is really a microcosm picture of exactly all the different, of what is going on, how the Father is dealing with us. And if you look at this in a little bit closer, taking what the world is seeing, because really you can't see anything contrary to the truth. You can not know what you're seeing and misinterpret it. That's part of our problem. But you can't change the truth. So even in this concept of the atom, what we're seeing, these electrons they say they're negatively charged. Protons are positive, and yet neutrons have this balance. They're their middle pillar. They stabilize. That is exactly the way the Godhead works with us, and where the system, and I use the word system, but I'm not using it like if I was, Luke Skywalker used the Force, okay? This is the Word, and the Word is alive. The Word is light. The Word is the mind of Elohim. The Word is God. So let's not get profane about it. Let's stick with it. Let's be in fear and awe and respect of what this is. But these, negative, positive, and a balancer is exactly what is being expressed. Let me read this to the word in Micah. Okay, so if you, actually let me get my Bible. Micah chapter 6, very famous verse. But what is the prophet really saying? What that maybe we're not getting? Let me see how quickly I can get to Micah. Okay, the little prophets get a little lost. I'm at Micah. Okay. Micah chapter 6, verse 8. And it says here, let me just find this thing. Listen, the Lord is called. Do I have it wrong? Oh, yeah, 6:8. He showed you, oh man, what is good. And what does the Lord require of you? To act justly, to love mercy, and to walk humbly with your God, Elohim. Okay? But on a much deeper level, what this is telling us, because if you take these words in the Hebrew, all right, the word humbly, the word justly, and the word mercy, they are coded. They're related to the tree of life. What it's giving you a picture. Justly is the middle pillar. Yeshua wants justice. All right? And what that means is he wants us to walk this perfect line, which is available, between mercy and between judgment. On the side of judgment, which is the left side, which is in a Hebrew word called gevera, which means fear. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom, right? I mean, it's not an accident it says that. You need to have a fear and a humility and an awe, because the Father is supreme, and he can, like it says today, judgments come upon the world to teach the nations righteousness. So when things get so out of whack that he has to do things on biblical scales, you really, and it's a awe, it's a wonder, it's like, oh my gosh, fear and trembling can enter, for rightly so. I mean, Yahweh, when you read the story on a deeper, I don't want to say bad, he scared the bejeebies out of Pharaoh in the sense that the power behind the God of Aaron and Moshe totally took Pharaoh off of his throne. And Pharaoh is just a puppet master for the principality that is over him. And it was a real showdown between the spiritual principality and Yahweh Elohim reinforcing his rule. Saying, no. I'm the high God here. You're my servant. And if I say let my people go, you need to let them go. And if you won't, I have all sorts of things at my disposal to get your attention and make you do my will, which is exactly how the story played out. And we are coming up on a second, they call it the second Passover, the second time when we will not only be taken out of the kingdom of Egypt on a physical level, but we will actually pass over and enter into we will totally be taken. I don't want to get into that mentally, the rapture, the resurrection, what people say. We will just totally, like it says, get to the level where wickedness will be no more. We will totally pass over. But that's another whole teaching. But humbly on this left side, must start with a fear and an awe of what God is capable of doing in our own lives personally. I mean, many times it's like, and many times it's arbitrary and you really can't, sometimes just can't put it in a context. I had my husband just passed. I mean, I had no context for that. I still don't really, but I still am in fear and have, what are you going to do, oh man? Are you going to quit? Like Peter, he said to Peter, where are you going to go? Where am I going to go? I'm going to stick with Yahweh and it's all going to be made clear. But mercy is on the other side. Now, mercy is the word hesed, and it really is implying the mercy, the loving kindness that is new every morning. And this is where the first thing that Yahweh is and that he wants us to know, and the first thing that really is his first reaction towards us is love. Okay? That's true. So you got that on one side, and you have the judgment of Elohim, what he's capable of doing on the other side. And these two need to be juxtapositioned in the middle, or they need to come into a balance in the middle where there will be peace and harmony between the two. Because judgment obviously could destroy the world, right? If God did not restrain his judgments, I mean, he could destroy us all in a heartbeat, right? But he doesn't. Flip side, what parent who's just totally merciful all the time and never disciplines their child, what good is that? There has to be a balance. And this is the middle pillar. This is what it means to govern, to judge, to act justly, to act according to the balance, the harmony, the stability that Torah, the instruction and righteousness will give us. That's why you don't, Ephraim, a lot of times today, aka Christianity, your foundations are eroding rapidly because they're not on the real foundation, which is Torah, which is the letters, which is the preserved writings, all of them for us, okay? It's not a 66 book canon. That's about the lowest level that you can get to. And if that's all you can think, all right, it's much. And besides, it says that all the books in the world can't contain all of the instruction that's in Torah, that Yeshua, that was restoring, that's in Mashiach, that's in this middle pillar. All right? So harmony and balance, this is what he's telling us. If we will walk according to this instruction, we will have, the world will be full of harmony, of balance, of peace, of prosperity. It will thrive. All right? There will be no enemies. There'll be no woodcutter to come and chop down your trees, which is a reference of talking about wicked principality and powers that come upon us and just try to mow us down. I mean, we see that. COVID, what is it? Who's behind it? What? All right. So this is why two things that are very important in our Torah text, because it's talking about, I talked about in a very literal sense, nations warring against each other. So instead of sharing on a very altruistic level resources and becoming a contributing player to the world, we kill, steal, and destroy and what we want. I mean, that's all right. That is the story of history. But praise Elohim, the story. We will have a righteous king who will implement a very high standard of Torah, and the nations will be judged when they get out of balance. I mean, I'm all for that. This is what I mean. The government will be upon his shoulders. He has the government. He has the system already in place. It's called the Word. God is the Word, and the Word is God. It's already been from the beginning. So we just need to get on, I would say, get on the Father's page. But in our Torah text, they're talking about these things that we, even Paul talked about our flesh that wars against. There's constant wars going on in our own flesh. What I should do versus what I want to do, what feels good to do. All right. In my emotional, somebody does you a big wrong and you want to hate the person. You want to get revenge. You want to oh my gosh, how could, these are real emotions, but you got to bring it back to the middle pillar. Yeah. An injustice has been done. But Yahweh corrects. This is what he says, vengeance is mine. I will correct. I will use my judgment to chasten the person or this, all right? That's why trusting, there's such peace in the middle pillar. There's an ability to just, all right, Father, whatever. You know best, but you have promised as I live in this place of harm that there will be prosperity, peace, health, to my bones, which is your physicality, to your soul, which is, again, these are getting in now to the celestial realm. See, this is Paul says, there's terrestrial, which means physicality. There is celestial, which is talking about more of our psychological levels. And then there is our mentalities. What we believe to be the truth, our perception is everything. And believe me, there is an empirical, provable, repeatable, and my fourth one was demonstratable proof in the empirical truth of Torah, of the letters, of the word. It is not a natural language. It is a supranatural. It is the letters of creation. There is absolutely embedded in them. I mean, this is what's interesting. There is actually literally embedded in them layers of light and life. And that's why even they say, even just scanning Hebrew text, they say there's a power, there's a blessing that will be released. Well, of course there would be. You can go buy a light bulb and you can get a little bit of that light coming off. Of course, it makes perfect sense. So this triune relationship is really all through our Torah texts. And it behooves people, this is what I really, again, want to really start teaching and sharing on much deeper levels, how our text is coded, all right, to describe these different levels. We don't need to use psychology, all right? I mean, my whole thing is let's get back to a pure language. Let's get back to speaking Hebrew to Hebrew. And I don't mean necessarily you got to talk to me in literally Hebrew, but having an understanding of the letters and the words and the established. See, Ephraimite Christian, you were grafted back into something that's already been growing for thousands of years. All right. Now we've done exactly what Paul said. We've gotten arrogant and we have dished our Hebraic roots and we've become very Greek and we've kind of, all right. Ephraim, this is what it means to cast your idols down, throw them to the ground. Let's go back and get onto the foundation again from which all truth stems. And it stems from the word. The word are the letters. The letters don't lie. The truth of these letters is called the keys to the kingdom. It's been kept in the text. Yeshua taught those to his disciples. Those disciples, that revolutionized their walk. They were doing the miracles and things on the level of Yeshua. And that is what will come back to us as we get back on the foundational page of Yahweh and express his image to the world. And his express image is full of his attributes. This is why when you look at the tree of life, you'll see these attributes. They're called, I'll just read them to you. The 10 attributes. You have wisdom. You start with the first one is crown, meaning the highest level. And crown is a word. It's the word. It's represented by the letter yod, and the yod has a little point at the top. It's like the connection. Truly, we can connect into the mind of Elohim. That comes, and that will come down and pour oil on our head. This is all the picture that's being painted, to wisdom, to understanding, which is what the text says is the principal thing. We need to get that. It comes into this idea of his loving kindness, his hesed, his gevera, his judgments. He is a good father, but he will chasten all his sons. Into what is known in Hebrew as tiferet. Tiferet is a word. It means harmony. It means balance. Everything that Yahweh made in balance, he said was good. If you really, it's really caught on the second day, he didn't say it was good. That's a real deep mystery. That's something very fascinating in there. But he goes on to say that there's this idea of there's a victory to the believer. There is a majesty. There is a glory available. And then it comes out into the foundation and into the kingship. The kingdom of heaven is within. Yeshua is telling us. It's not out there. It's inside us. We are made up molecularly, DNA, of a seed that is producing a being in us, a soul, a body, a soul, and a spirit that is pleasing to the Father. And you got to look at those like computer programs. All those different programs are running in us all the time. Many are, well, I won't get into the science of it. This is why I love the Jewish, because they really have always been at the forefront of science, because I'm telling you, priests, sages, people who study, who are called masters of Torah, who study the text at this level, these are the sages. They have the meat, and they can get down to the level of mystery. So this is really important, I think, concepts, and they will bless you totally. So some of the code words, see, because what I'm really about is that some of the code words that are in our text. So things like, okay, I just want to tell you, when they use the word the everlasting hills is a phrase you'll find in the Torah. Well, what, really, what are the everlasting hills? Okay, this is really talking about the Sephirithic or the emanative name of Elohim, of being, of understanding, and of all the way down into physicality. It's the seen and the unseen part of us. The everlasting hills is equated, and this is where I'm just going to end and kind of whet your appetite for the next. I'm trying to paint, because that's what I'm an artist. I paint pictures, but there's a lot of different things I realize that go into my paintings. I got to have paints. I got to have paper. I got to have some kind of cognitive. I got to see something cognitively that I want to put on the page. So this is all part of the process that goes into it. But the male and the female Hebrew language is gender. All right, there's a male and there's a female, and it's a very fascinating. Let me just find my little. Hold on a second. Here, it's what I want to unpack next time. Maybe I can come back later this afternoon. I'm on such a roll. Okay, this is a little nut. Get this on a sidewalk. I pick it up. They're all over the place. But this is something that the sages teach, some of the deepest mysteries, using this little example, okay? But if you see these two little lobes here, holes, they'll tell you this represents Chokmah and Bina, the right side and the left side, let's just say, of our brain, of our thinking and psychological levels. That's what the language is doing. There's a female force energy in this. There's a male energy to these letters. All right. Wouldn't it make sense? I mean, why break our, if we're made in the image and likeness of Elohim, and everybody comes into being through a male and a female pairing, creating a third, a new flesh. It says, why wouldn't our brains, why wouldn't everything all up and down this this archetypal ladder say the same thing, and it does. So it's very exciting to see the word from the point of view of the letters in terms of this male and female relationship that goes on. It's all over the text, but you're going to see it in the Hebrew. And unfortunately, most modern day Christians, we don't know what to do with it because we don't understand the dynamics, the spiritual dynamics that are in these letters, in the Torah, and are all going to come out. It's all going to come out for the whole world to see, because anyone can learn this. This is where we're getting back to. You don't need any man to teach you. Once you get it, it's just between you and God. You don't need any other man to teach you. So we're coming upon this time, a millennium. It's going to be woe to the wicked. So I said, woe to the wicked. You better get your act cleaned up. But tell the righteous it's going to be well with them. So get oil in your lamp. When the bridegroom, when that's sound of coming, have oil in your lamp so you can just get up and trim your lamp and follow him. So, shalom. Have a wonderful Shabbat. Read the Parshas at some point, and I will see you again on the journey, on the road.